All right, welcome again, wonderful Wildcats, to Friday, December 1st, standard form to vertex form on page 38. So if you would, update your table of contents. All right, now your table of contents are updated. Let's take a look at our notes. All right, standard form to vertex form, page 38. Steps to transform standard form to vertex form. Step 1, factor so the coefficient of x squared is 1. Step 2, set up to complete the square. Step 3, add b divided by 2 squared. Because b divided by 2 squared is multiplied by the a value, you must subtract a times b divided by 2 squared. Step factor. And step 5, simplify. All right, so if you would, update your notes. All right, now your notes are updated. Let's look at our examples. Now, for all of you line drawer, box drawing haters, I've listened to you, I've heard, and I feel your pain. So what I've done is I pre-drew the lines on the paper so you don't have to watch me draw the lines in the video. All right, so with that, lines are drawn. Let's look at example 1. Transform the quadratic function from standard form to vertex form. Then identify its vertex. All right, so step 1 says to factor so the coefficient of x squared is 1. Okay, well, the coefficient of x squared is already 1. So step 2, we're going to set up to complete the square. So we have y equals, we're actually going to factor out a 1 from here, just so you can understand the process of completing the square. Now, we're only going to factor it from the first two terms, and then we're going to separate the plus 145. Okay? Now, next we're going to add b divided by 2 squared. So that's plus b is 24 divided by 2 squared. Now, if you add something to an equation, that changes it. So we don't want to change it. So we're actually going to subtract, but we're actually multiplying by 1. So we're going to subtract 1 times 24 divided by 2 squared. Okay, that's where kind of the magic goes in, because mathematically, this and this becomes 0. So we haven't changed the problem. We're just magically manipulating it, okay? All right. Now, we have 1 times 1x squared plus 24x plus 24 divided by 2 is 12. 12 squared is plus 144. Okay? And then plus 145 minus 144. Now, that plus 144 completed this square, because now we have a trinomial and we can draw a square, okay? And that's what we mean by completing the square. We technically could factor this using the box method now that we have the third term, okay? Now we have the 1. Now factoring is easy because 24 divided by 2 is 12. And we know 12 times 12 is 144, and 12 plus 12 is 24. So we know our factors are x plus 12 times x plus 12, and then plus 1. Okay? Now to simplify, we know x plus 12 times x plus 12 is x plus 12 squared. So we have y equals 1 times x plus 12 squared plus 1. We've now converted from standard form to vertex form, because this is now vertex form. And so the vertex is, technically that's x minus 8, so that's a negative 12, comma, plus k plus, comma 1. Now, what I would recommend doing is pausing the video and trying example 2 on your own. And then once you've tried it, then watch the video, okay, to follow through with what I've done and see if it works with what you've done. Okay? Now, but again, I know this is kind of a magical lesson. It seems like I'm doing magical mathematical things. So if you get frustrated, stop. I'll go over the examples again in class. But if you're understanding, keep going with me, and then you can move on to the assignment. All right, example 2. So we're going to factor, so the coefficient of x squared is 1. So in this case, it's 1. So we have y equals, we're going to factor out the 1. And the reason why we do that is because we get the a value, okay, by doing that, okay? This is technically a parentheses x minus 8 squared plus k, right? So it's 1 times 1x squared plus 10x and then we're going to separate the minus 13 because now we're going to complete this square. Okay, and by square I mean the box method. If we have the third term, we can now factor this using the box method. All right, so next two is add b divided by 2 squared. So plus b is 10 divided by 2 squared. But if you add it, you need to subtract 1 times 10 divided by 2 squared. Because now these become 0. We haven't changed the problem. Okay, so then you get y equals 1. That's 1x squared plus 10x. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Squared is 25. Minus 13 minus 5. So now we have 1. We're going to factor, and we know it's going to be x plus 5, x plus 5. And to make it really simple, whatever this number divided by 2 is going to be your factors. Okay? And then minus 18. And I apologize, I need one more line here. So then we know that x plus 5 times x plus 5 is x plus 5 squared. So we get y equals 1 x plus 5 squared minus 18. And so the vertex is x minus 8, so that's negative 5, plus k, so minus 18. All right, now I wouldn't try the next one because the next one's a little different. Now after I go over example 3, then try example 4 on your own. All right, example 3. Okay, so we're going to factor, so the coefficient of x squared is 1. So in this case, and you notice I've been changing the h of x's, f of x to y's, okay? So then y equals, so I can actually factor out of 2. So then that's x squared minus 4x. Now, we don't want to factor out the x from here because we need it in the x squared x form, okay? And then we're going to separate the plus 3, okay? All right, so now step 2, we're going to add b divided by 2 squared. So that's plus negative 4 divided by 2 squared, but we need to subtract 2 times negative 4 divided by 2 squared. And the reason why it's 2 times is because technically you're multiplying this by 2. So it's actually this times 2 minus this times 2, and they actually would cancel, okay? All right, and we did that so we can complete this square, so we can factor using either reverse box method or just the 2 parentheses. All right, so now our next is we simplify, so 2x squared minus 4x. Negative 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4, so plus 4. And then plus 3 minus, that is, negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So then you get y equals 2. We know the factors, x minus 2, x minus 2. And we know it's minus 2 because negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Minus 5. Okay? And it looks like we need one more line. So then you have y equals 2, x minus 2 squared minus 5. So now it's in vertex form. Our vertex is x minus 8, so that's 2 comma negative 5. Now at this point, I would probably pause the video and then try example 4 on your own. All right, I assume now you've tried it on your own, so now let's work through it together. So y equals, so then we factor, so the coefficient of x squared is 1. So we can actually factor a 3 from the first two terms, so that's 3 x squared minus 4x, and we're going to separate the minus 4 so we can complete the square. Step 3, we're going to add b divided by 2, so that's negative 4 divided by 2 squared, but we also have to subtract 3 times negative 4 divided by 2 squared, because this is technically 3 times that, so we cancel those, become 0, okay? So then y equals 3 x squared minus 4x. Negative 4 divided by 2 is 2. Negative 2 squared is 4, so plus 4 minus 3 times 4, which is 12. Okay, then we factor, so y equals 3. X, we know minus 2. X minus 2, because negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And then minus 16. And we know this is squared, so y equals 3x minus 2 squared minus 16. So now it's in vertex form. So vertex is x minus 8. So 2 comma negative 16. All right, at this point, you have two routes. You can wait for to go over these magical examples in class tomorrow, or you can start working on the magical assignment problems now. So you decide, and as always, have a magical wildcat, completing the square, having fun as a wildcat. Wildcats are awesome. Awesome wildcat day.